Hello, welcome to Unlocking Buddhism. Have you ever noticed how your mind feels after scrolling through endless comments, debates, or provocations online? It's subtle at first, a little restlessness, a foggy heaviness, but over time, it builds. And then, without even realizing it, your peace is gone. You've been pulled into someone else's storm. There's something happening around us every day, a quiet invasion. Not of armies or machines, but of noise. Voices, opinions, arguments, desperate calls for attention, disguised as insights or truths. And we consume them. We consume them like food, sometimes sweet, sometimes bitter, often poisonous. Now imagine this. You walk into a room full of food, some of it fresh and nourishing, others rotten, toxic, even dangerous. Would you eat it just because it's free? Just because it's on the table? Of course not. You would choose carefully. But what about the conversations you listen to? The posts you read? The people you engage with online? Are you choosing them with the same care? This is not just about avoiding negativity. It's about respecting the sacred space of your own mind. About realizing that attention is not free. Every click, every response, is a form of nourishment or poison. In this video, we explore a simple but transformative idea. To guard the mind is to begin cultivating wisdom. We'll reflect on how too much exposure to noise, drama, and mental confusion, especially on the internet, is not only exhausting, but deeply disruptive to our inner path. And here's the paradox. Sometimes, even compassion becomes dangerous when it turns into indulgence, when we feed people's confusion instead of guiding them gently toward clarity. Leave a short comment below. Wisdom or noise? What are you choosing more often these days? Imagine waking up in a small village decades ago, before phones, before news tickers, before constant noise. The day begins with the sound of birds, the warmth of sunlight, the quiet movement of neighbors preparing for the morning. You speak only when there's something worth saying, and you listen not to words, but to silences between them. Now contrast that with today. You open your eyes, and immediately, before even stepping out of bed, your mind is greeted or ambushed by dozens of messages, opinions, notifications, videos, fragments of someone else's chaos. And this happens every day. It's no wonder that so many people feel like they're drowning. Not in water, but in words. There's a story from the early Buddhist tradition of a layperson who came to the Buddha, distressed. He had been part of many heated debates, trying to prove others wrong and himself right. He spent his days arguing about Dhamma, quoting scriptures not to understand, but to defeat. When he approached the Buddha, his heart was heavy. "I want peace," he said, "but I can't stop thinking." The Buddha didn't give him a new theory. He didn't offer a complex practice. This simple truth holds the entire teaching. In our daily life, everything we consume becomes part of our mental garden. If we water anger, anger grows. If we water jealousy, jealousy grows. But if we choose, carefully, mindfully, to water patience, silence, and discernment, these too begin to bloom. But modern life, with its limitless connectivity, makes it incredibly easy to water the wrong seeds. You see it on social media all the time. A person makes a post. Perhaps it's strange, perhaps even cruel or inflammatory. The instinct to respond rises quickly. But what really happens is that attention is given, and like sunlight on weeds, the behavior flourishes. Even worse, many of these posts are not cries for truth, but cries for attention. And when we answer them, even with criticism, we reward that behavior. We reinforce the exact pattern that causes suffering, in them and in us. It's like a child who throws a tantrum not because they want something, but because they crave a reaction. If we respond, we teach the child that loudness brings attention. But if we pause, if we wait, if we choose our response with care, we show them another way. In the world of the internet, we are surrounded by digital tantrums. Adults seeking validation, approval, conflict, even if it's destructive. And here's the danger. When we constantly engage, we not only lose our time, we lose our clarity. There is a powerful metaphor used in the Buddhist tradition. The mind is like a clear pool. When calm, it reflects the moon, the stars, the trees, reality as it is. But when disturbed by ripples, by storms, it reflects only distortion. You can't see clearly in muddy water. Every argument, every unnecessary engagement, every triggered reaction is a stone tossed into your mind's stillness. And if we throw stones all day, how can we expect peace at night? But there's a path back. It begins with restraint, not as suppression, but as wisdom. It means seeing clearly what kind of seeds we're about to water. And sometimes the kindest thing we can do, both for ourselves and others, is to let silence speak. When someone posts a harmful comment, sometimes silence is more powerful than reply. When someone seeks conflict, absence is more healing than engagement. When noise is all around us, stillness becomes a sacred act of defiance and compassion. This doesn't mean never speaking. It means speaking from a place that's not reactive, but rooted. It means choosing our responses not from ego or urgency, but from clarity and care. In our age, restraint is radical, silence is strength, and choosing what we don't engage with, that is the new form of courage. The central teaching drawn from this reflection is deceptively simple, yet profoundly transformative. Protecting the mind is the foundation of all progress on the path. Without this first step, without the ability to guard our attention, all other practices become fragile. In the Dhamma, the mind is not merely a container of thoughts. It is the creator of our experience. What we allow into the mind, what we give attention to, becomes the architecture of our inner world. The Buddha called this appamada, vigilant mindfulness, and placed it above all other virtues. To be vigilant means not to live in fear, but to live with clarity. Today's world makes this vigilance harder than ever. The flood of information, the relentless call to engage, respond, react, all of it challenges our ability to remain centered. But here, the Dhamma offers an antidote: discrimination, the wise capacity to discern what supports liberation and what binds us further to confusion. There is compassion in this, but it is adult compassion, not sentimental indulgence. True compassion does not mean giving attention indiscriminately. It means not reinforcing suffering, even if we feel pity for someone. The Buddha, in his deep compassion, did not support delusion. He did not applaud ignorance. He illuminated it, patiently, wisely, and encouraged others to let go. That is why, in this teaching, ignoring unwholesome speech is not coldness. It is an act of non-participation in the cycle of delusion. When someone seeks attention through provocation or confusion, responding, even with scolding, gives energy to that pattern. It teaches that distortion works. It waters the wrong seed. The proper response is silence born from understanding. To say nothing, not out of disdain, but out of awareness that some things cannot be healed by words. This is restraint, one of the core elements of sila, or ethical conduct. It is a form of right action, not through speech, but through the wisdom of not speaking. And this restraint is not just for others, it is also for ourselves. Because every time we give attention to what is chaotic, our own mind is stirred. We carry fragments of that noise with us, and soon, our own clarity is lost. So, the Buddha encourages a practice of careful engagement. He asks, is it true? Is it useful? If the answer is no, then silence may be the most compassionate response. Furthermore, the teaching here challenges a common misconception in spiritual life, that to be good is to be endlessly available. But the Dhamma teaches boundaries as wisdom. Saying no is not always selfish. Sometimes it is the most skillful expression of self-respect and compassion. In fact, the Buddha warned against sacrificing one's own path for the sake of pleasing others. The cultivation of our own mind is not a luxury. It is the root from which all true help can grow. Thus, to remain grounded, we must treat our mind like a sacred space. We must choose what enters. We must ask whether what we are consuming, with our eyes, ears, and thoughts, is leading us toward wisdom or away from it. The way we engage with the world, especially through speech and attention, either reinforces delusion or supports awakening. There is no neutral ground. Each moment is a choice. And so, the real teaching here is a call to radical honesty. What am I nourishing? What am I reinforcing? In myself and in others? And most importantly, am I giving my energy to that which liberates or that which binds? Let's bring this even closer to the ground, into the quiet corners of everyday life, where the Dhamma whispers, not shouts. You're at the grocery store. A stranger bumps into you without apologizing. Instinctively, the mind reacts. Irritation, judgment. A story begins. How rude, it says. But somewhere beneath that story, there's space to breathe. And in that space, a question arises. Is this the seed I want to water? And suddenly, the story weakens. You let it go. Not because you're indifferent, but because you see clearly. The cost of holding on is too high. That's not just patience, that's wisdom. Or maybe it's a conversation with a loved one. They say something unkind, not because they mean to hurt, but because they too are tired, confused, human. Your chest tightens. You want to respond sharply. You want to win. But in that moment, you remember, winning the argument might cost the relationship. So you pause, you breathe, you listen not just to their words, but to their pain underneath. And from that pause, something new is born. Compassion, not reaction. The world is full of these quiet choices. You're scrolling your phone late at night, not out of curiosity but restlessness. You read something ridiculous, a post meant to provoke. Your finger hovers above the reply. You can already feel the words forming, sharp, clever, ready to correct. But then, something in you softens. You place the phone down. You smile at your own mind, not because you've won something, but because you've protected something. Your energy, your intention, your time. This is the sacred work we overlook. Not glamorous, not visible, but deeply transformative. There's also the way we engage with ourselves. Imagine you've made a mistake. Maybe you said something you regret. Maybe you missed a deadline. The voice of self-criticism is quick to appear. You always do this, but the practice meets you here too. What if, instead of scolding, you responded with curiosity? You begin to see your own confusion not as a failure, but as a place to meet yourself more honestly. And in that meeting, healing begins. Now imagine a conversation where someone opens up. They share pain, fear, maybe something difficult. You're unsure how to respond. You feel the urge to fix it, to offer advice, to fill the silence. But what if you simply stayed, present, grounded, with open ears and a quiet heart? Often, the greatest gift isn't words, it's presence. The kind of presence that doesn't try to change anything, but sees everything clearly. That too is Dhamma, the path of not adding more, but revealing what is already enough. Even in traffic, yes, traffic, there is a chance to practice. The car cuts in. The driver is reckless. Your breath shortens. You reach for the horn, but instead, a pause. You loosen your grip. You breathe, and in that breath, a new reality opens. The external situation didn't change, but your relationship to it did. You didn't feed the fire. You didn't carry that moment with you all day. This is how the mind becomes lighter, not through escape, but through wise engagement. Even in solitude, the practice is alive. You notice the pull to check your phone again, to fill the silence, but you stop. You sit, you listen. You hear the room, the sound of your own breath, and you remember, this silence is not empty. It's spacious, alive, sacred. Day by day, moment by moment, we begin to see that wisdom is not something added. It's something uncovered. When we stop feeding what is noisy and nourish what is true. And so, the practice becomes less about what we do and more about how we meet what is already here. No robe required, no mountain retreat, just you, your mind, this moment, and the choice to bring light into it. And now we come to the quiet end of this reflection. Not a conclusion, but a return to something that has always been here. The mind, when left undisturbed, is luminous. It does not need fixing, only understanding. What confuses it is not the world itself, but the way we carry the world within. When we engage less with what disturbs and more with what clarifies, we begin to rediscover this natural clarity. we begin to see that peace was never far, only buried beneath layers of noise, urgency, and distraction. And in this seeing, the world itself begins to shift, not because others speak less or do less, but because we respond from a place that is no longer entangled. This is not an escape from the world, but a deeper participation in it, one that starts with honesty, restraint, and care. We no longer feel the need to correct every wrong, nor to carry every confusion. We begin to trust that silence, too, is a form of presence. That absence, when rooted in wisdom, is not rejection, it is refuge. So take this with you, into your morning routine, into your conversations, into the way you move through the internet, through your friendships, through your solitude. Let the teachings breathe through your choices, not loudly, but steadily. And as you go forward, I invite you to notice what you choose to water today, what you give your energy to, what you reinforce through your words, your silence, your attention. If this reflection offered even a moment of clarity, I ask you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Not for debate, not for agreement, just your honest impression. Your words may help someone else remember their own stillness. And in that way, this reflection continues, not through me, but through you. Thank you for listening, for choosing to listen deeply, and above all, for continuing to walk slowly, gently, toward the light of your own understanding.